What's up guys, Nick here with Laidlaw's Harley-Davidson, and I'm standing in front of a bike I want to talk to you about just a little bit. We didn't do anything crazy to this bike, but we do think we made a few tasteful changes that not only enhance the appearance of the lowrider, but also really improve the overall utility and practicality of the bike. And so what we did is we kind of took a little bit of inspiration from my father's bike. It's 1985 FXR, and we do feel like the new lowrider is really designed to kind of resemble that bike. But we went ahead and did T-bars to it, some Lucky Dave T-bars with a little bit of a pullback on them. We did a Harley-Davidson quarter fairing with an additional little flip windshield on it, and then we did some T-Sport bags as well. I'm not sure if they're visible in the frame or not, but they're really nice Leather Pro bags that are kind of they resemble the old T-Sport bags. The particular bags that we have on this bike are actually pretty cool in that they don't require any sort of turn signal relocation, which is something that has to happen on most of the T-Sport bags on the new Softails. So we did these changes, like I said, to really improve the overall practicality of the bike. And we also did it for some aesthetic purposes as well. We think this style bike is just a really classic, cool looking West Coast style machine. Alrighty, so like I said, I wanted to give you kind of a closer look at these bags here. They're Leather Pros bags. They're really, really nice quality, ballistic nylon. They're made here in the United States, and I really don't have enough good things to say about it. My dad's been running it on his bike for quite some time now, and they've held up really well now. Now, mind you, he keeps really good care of his bike, and his is always garaged, but it's really nice quality leather up here on top on the cover here, and then the bag itself, like I said, is ballistic nylon, although it is also available in all leather if that's your style and that's what you'd prefer. So you've got a zipper, of course, that's going to run along the length of the bag here that's going to allow you to open it, but it's also got a second zipper that's pretty cool that lets you expand the bag. So let's go ahead and open these up real quick. So if I go ahead and show you in here, you've got a couple buttons that are going to latch. When you are running the expanded option here, you've got a second button that lets you kind of still close the lid without having to worry about trying to stretch this all the way over and get to that inner button here. Find where the zippers are at. Now obviously there is a little bit of you do have to fuss around with it a little bit more than you do with a hard bag, because with a hard bag you're just kind of dealing with that one latch and opening it up, at least on the modern hard bag designs. But once you've got it open, they open really nice and wide like that, so you've got probably a larger access point than you would on a traditional hard bag. Alright, so now I've got that open. So this gives you kind of an idea. This is where it would be without that, and this entire piece of fabric here, where you can see the seam down the middle, that is all the expansion capability of the bag, which without wedging something in there, it's kind of difficult to show how much wider that truly is. But my best guess would be that each one of these fabric sections is about 1 inch, and so that gives you about 2 inches more width on the bag, which is going to translate into a lot of additional interior volume. So it's really an impressive bag design. These are a little bit smaller than the ones that you could get if you were willing to relocate the turn signals, but that is a fair bit of additional cost because you're going to have to buy either a relocation kit, or most guys might go with Alloy Arts kind of strut end fairing, or not strut end LEDs, which they look really, really clean, but they are quite a bit more money than being able to just run the stock ones, and you can kind of see where it's cut out around there. So that's how they're able to achieve that design without having to relocate those turn signals. Alright guys, we just got back from the short little test ride that we did. We took out the 1985 FXR and we took out the 2019 Lowrider that we were showing you. Ergonomically speaking, the two bikes are actually pretty similar. They're both mid-controls with T-bars. You sit really upright on both of them. They both have the same sort of T-Sport style bags, and they both have the Harley quarter fairings, which is really the reason we took them out. Obviously, they're quite a number of years apart. The FXR has a lot of modifications done to it, upgraded suspension, dual disc brakes. It's got a fair bit of power outers done to it. So, it wasn't such a dramatic difference between the two as it otherwise would have been had it been like a bone stock FXR. But it was still really cool to see the difference between the two platforms. The FXR is really hailed for how well it handles and how light and nimble it is. And when you get off that bike and then you get onto the new Softail, the DNA is really, really clear between the two. The new Softail handles better than the FXR does. It actually, even though it's heavier, it feels just as nimble, if not a little bit more nimble, which I was really surprised by. I guess that's just the years of suspension geometry development that Harley has had. And really, overall, I was just impressed with how comfortable, practical, usable the bikes are, which makes sense because, I guess that's really what they're set up to be, and it's what we designed the bikes to be in terms of the modifications that we did, and that's what Harley advertises the Lowrider as a mile eater. But it really solidified, for me, my decision on my bike. It's such a all-around capable bike. It can be turned into anything that you want it to be turned into, and in that way it's almost like a Sportster. It's kind of this blank canvas that you can do anything with, and you don't have to make too many sacrifices. So I really enjoyed it, and I'm gonna turn the camera over to Matt and we'll get some of his thoughts.
Hey guys, Matt Laidlaw here. So I went out with Nick on the two bikes, the 1985 FXR and the new 2019 Lowrider. And it's just kind of cool to ride both the bikes back to back. You've got this generation, the FXR era is kind of what brought Harley-Davidson back from the AMF days. And so to kind of compare that to our modern Softail frame and ride them back to back is kind of interesting. The FXR, like Nick mentioned, has a lot of upgrades to it, but even with those upgrades, things like the braking are still quite a bit better. The engine, obviously, you got a lot bigger displacement with the Milwaukee-Eight as well, but it's just interesting to see how they compare to one another. You definitely have more of a refined modern bike with the lowrider, but it's cool to kind of see where some of this Dyna/FXR purpose-built bike craze is kind of coming from, and kind of where some of the origins can be traced back to. You know, the FXR is definitely one of those, the era of bike where a lot of the style points are kind of taken from. I mean, even the graphics on the FXLR, the lowrider here, can be traced back to like the 70s. So it's kind of cool to see how Harley-Davidson takes some of its style points from its history. But yeah, pretty cool. The FXR here is a pretty sweet bike, you know, owned by Rick, one of our employees here, who spent a lot of time and effort and money in kind of modernizing it with different things like rubber mounting and modern brakes and wheels and things like that. So you still have very much that old mechanical feel, a bike that's still relevant even today to that crowd that I'm speaking of, kind of that club style purpose-built bike. And so it's fun riding a true bike from that era and comparing it to the new lowrider. So yeah, big thumbs up for both bikes.